Saturn in the 11th house, and you can find out in what house your Saturn is by going to my birth chart calculator at AstroLada.com. There is a link below for it, and entering your time and place of birth and the year and the rest. But you need to know at least your approximate time of birth within 15-20 minutes, otherwise you cannot get the right time, otherwise you cannot get the right house position of a planet. And it can give you so much in-depth detail about where your issues of troubles come in this life, especially in the first part of this life, about karmic duties, and where you have to work very hard. And when do you have Saturn in the 11th house? Well, once you get this chart on my birth chart calculator, check out if you have Saturn here. This is the 11th sign from the ascendant. The ascendant sign is the sign that rises on the east horizon, and it's the start of your horoscope. And from there we count in that direction 11 signs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So if Saturn happens to be in this 11th sign from the ascendant, it counts like being, it influences you like being in the 11th house. Or also check, it's very important to check also if Saturn is with the 11th house cusp. This is another thing which is a division of the sky, which is even more precise than the sign division of the sky. And it's more kind of mathematically correct as well, but both systems work. And check if the 11th, how do you write? The 11th Roman numerical is in the same sign with Saturn, the same square or triangle with Saturn. Sometimes Saturn can be here in the 10th sign, but together with the 11th Roman numerical. So again, it acts, it affects the 11th house cusp. Sometimes might even be here or here, you know, the 11th house cusp might be here. This will still count, and even in extreme cases, people who are born very north, it can even come to here. But if you see Saturn with the 11th house cusp, it counts like having, like Saturn affecting the 11th house. If you're using the circular type of chart, you will see Saturn here, because the ascendant here starts from, it's aligned like that, so the eastern horizon is placed here, so Saturn comes here in the 11th house. So what happens? What are the lessons and the difficulties and the karma of a person who has Saturn in the 11th house? Well, such people, if you believe in past lives, you know, but such people made mistakes. Wherever Saturn is where you abused, or you had wrong ideas, or you made mistakes, you had wrong attitudes in past lives, retarded somehow, and lame attitudes which made you suffer or made others suffer, your behaviors and attitudes. When it comes to friendships, because 11th house rules friendships and society. So some of them in past lives maybe used friends for utilitarian purposes. They only formed friends from which they can have some use. They had approach towards friendship, or they allowed friends to use them in some way. They were the victims. Sometimes if Saturn is in a difficult sign, like fire signs or something, it might be that others or society around them and peers, they allowed too much pressure, and they allowed themselves to feel miserable because of that. And you know, they had a wrong attitude towards those people. I mean, towards even if it's there, the victim, doesn't matter. It's still wrong way of perceiving reality, you know. And also the 11th house is the house of gains, financial gains, the money that you're able to make with your own hard work. So maybe they had some wrong ideas in past lives. Maybe they were trying to get gains in some, you know, trying to step, you know, with some circumventory ways, not in a direct with hard-working way. They tried to do it, or maybe they felt too dejected when it comes to income and achieving this. So in this lifetime, wherever Saturn is in a house, the universe delays the positive result of the house where Saturn is. So friendships might be delayed, the first thing. Friendships, happiness from friendships and recognition in peer groups might be such a pressure on the person, especially in the first 30 to 35 years while Saturn is maturing. After 30-35 years, the lessons of Saturn are usually learned, and they're much less painful, and a person learns to deal with them and can become master of those things. But especially in the early age, in the early years, such people might have less friends. They might suffer a kind of abuse from friends, so not abuse, but they were hurt in some way from friends, and the person might really distance themselves from friends in the first 20-30 years of their life. This is like one kind of a compensation, distancing and kind of resenting others and alienating themselves and having very few people around them and not fitting in with the cool kids with school, the pariah syndrome. This is in the worst extreme cases, when Saturn is in a really bad state. In the more normal cases, more common cases is that the house for Saturn, the person feels such a pressure there, such a pressure to perform well, but they feel a bit lame. So this is 11th house is the confirmation from peer friends. So they feel peer pressure a lot. And they try to fit in very hard. So one case will be for them to totally shun the peer group and the friendships and the cool kids at school or whatever, and to shun those because they feel lame there and inadequate. The other thing is to try really hard to fit in, to really hard to fit in with the others, with a group of friends and people. So like the groupie syndrome sometimes. This can be the extreme behaviors, and the breakdown syndrome is that they alienate. Definitely such people with Saturn in the 11th house have periods when they alienated, they dissociate from others and become more resentful and more cautious. But such people will always be more cautious about friends because they were either hurt or there was some misuse of energies there, especially in the early part of life. But with age, when we start mastering better the lessons of Saturn, such people tend to become very loyal friends. So people with Saturn in the 11th, they will have a few friends, 2 or 3 trusted ones, but they'll give their life for them. Saturn is a planet of longevity, so when it catches something, it holds there. It's very cautious. It doesn't allow many people in their life, but when it allows them, it works very hard. And often people with Saturn in the 11th house, they have to work very hard for their friendships. It's not like some people just, if you have Jupiter there, which is the planet which gives you everything very easily, just you're popular. Others call you. You don't have to make an effort. Out like a magic, it happens. If you have Neptune there, people just stick around you in the social group. You invite you to society places, but if you have Saturn there, you work your way there. You work your way to gain into some social circle as well, into some, usually they might be a bit more materialistic social circles that these people chase because of Saturnian is more materialistic planet. Not always, astrology is never 100%, but at least 60-70% of people will feel it. They have to work hard to keep those relationships, to maintain them, because there is a bit of disconnection there. Whatever Saturn is, it dries up a bit the ability to connect from the heart, to, because of pain, because of trauma in past lives, so in early childhood, so other people feel it. And always such a person has to work hard for their relationships, and they realize that friendships is hard work, not love relationship. This is friendship relationship. Friendships are hard work. They have to maintain them. But once they have friends, they're usually loyal, old-time friends, tested over and over, who stick with them. Especially in the older, after 30 onwards, they tend to have a group of very solid, respectable friends. But still, there is a bit of aloofness between friendships. Between social groups, there can be a bit of pretense there. Everything is okay, but they don't connect fully within. Because Saturn is this disconnecting, drying influence. So there can be a bit of pretense when it comes to friendships, or a bit of aloofness, a bit of distance. And these people have to learn not to use friends for just to have friends who can help them or things like that. Friends who, for utilitarian purposes, for material purposes, or something like maybe someone who introduced them to someone. They have to learn to connect from the heart, to make real humane bonds with others. And that's when it comes to the karma of friendships. But there is also karma of gains, because 11th house is a very lucky, positive house. It's the house of attaining your goals and dreams. And most of people's goals and dreams in life are gains, financial gains from the work they do. So 11th house rules the gains. So usually Saturn can delay the ability of a person to gain, to make his own money, to about 30 usually, to about 35 to start making better. It's not how much you can save, it's how much you can make. The savings is the second house. And such people, usually they have to learn the correct way of gaining money. They have to, usually Saturn makes them work very hard. If they want to make money for themselves, they have to work hard for it. And usually it is through some regulated salary, because Saturn needs regularity. It's not, they're a bit fearful to work in places where 1 month they receive salary, 1 month don't, usually self-employed. It creates a bit of fear in them. So they feel much better when they have a regular income, and they usually tend, after 30, 35 onwards, they tend to have a regular income, and slowly but surely to make more and more money with life. Especially if you have your ascendant in in Capricorn or Aquarius here. Capricorn and Aquarius ascendant people, when Saturn, because Saturn becomes them, Saturn rules Capricorn and Aquarius, it means that they are fully dedicated in the 11th house. These people tend to get rich. All the others with Saturn in the 11th house with other ascendants, they just have to work hard to make their money. They can still get rich, but very slowly. While people with Capricorn and Aquarius ascendant, they become very gainful and very often very successful in society. They reach high levels of society. They reach high recognition in society because Saturn is them. Saturn it still can bring delays to about 30 for the development of those things, but Saturn is not some outer karmic influences. They themselves, and they know how to work very hard. But usually people with Saturn in the 11th house, they know that the achievement of goals and dreams, which is the 11th house, requires your personal effort and a lot of hard work, and Saturn is the planet of hard work. So slowly but surely their life improves with age. 11th house is a house of improvement, so such people usually tend to have a more difficult first 30 years of life, and then after 30 or 35 onwards, they become more popular, they have more friends, and they become more gainful financially. And they can be quite, also Saturn shows where you have karma. And 11th house rules large organizations in society and social projects. So you can work through your karma of Saturn by contributing to society, because the 11th house is society, is the world, is the networks of people that live together in cities, and in society. And Saturn, Saturn is a planet of work, so you burn your karma of Saturn by working in such areas, or by putting effort there. So maybe helping old people, helping socially disadvantaged people. Also Saturn is about organizations, being part of organizations who help such people. Let's see, it's like groups. They can work in groups. It's kind of, this is how they work through the karma, but kind of more conventional, institutionalized groups, maybe like NHS, or health services, or government institutions as well. Big organizations are groups that are more traditional, and also they can be very good. Saturn is a regulating planet, so whatever you are, you can regulate big groups of people. You can become a great regulator of bigger groups of people later in age, especially after 30, 35. So it's also good for managers again. And it's good for business people a lot, because especially business people who work with many people, and the 11th house is marketplaces, the economic systems of network, any big networks of anything, of money, of people, they're the 11th house. So the economy, the nowadays crazy economy, is the 11th house, a network of things. So when Saturn is in the 11th house, you can work in such economic professions as well, regulatory positions there, kind of organization, restructuring positions, and as I said, governments as well, services, large social institutions, regulating networks, and public, okay. And also, they have a lot of karma to pay by giving back to society. The best way, especially in their later age, in their 40s, 50s onwards, such people feel like a call, like a karmic call to give from themselves to society, and because this is how they'll pay back. And a lot of the, like the famous astrologer says, Barbara Pian, she says that she investigated a lot of the British royal family and royalties, people that are in the royal families, they have Saturn in the 11th house because they have a burden and a workload, because Saturn is workload and burden towards society. Like they're always in social, exhibitions and social events, hospitals and all those kind of things, So this kind of professions are also quite good for you. Let's see. I think we mentioned almost everything. 11th house also rules titles and honors, the recognition you receive from society, and you might not receive it till later in your age again, till after 35, 40, onwards. But such people tend to gain titles and honors, PhDs, professor, all this things in front of the name before, and like well-sounding, like senior director of bank or whatever. You know, they tend to gain these things because they know that the achievements of goals and wishes and gains in life, which is the 11th house, is a hard work. Slowly, slowly, they tend to apply this principle. They don't expect all of a sudden, you know, to get there alone. And usually, to get all of a sudden from here to here, and usually if they try, it doesn't work for them. They have to go, but they feel it within themselves, so they tend to know what steps to take in order to achieve their goals and dreams. Thank you.